On tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs related podcast, the Cubs are swept in San Francisco. The offensive woes continue, and the Cubs head to Colorado. We'll talk about all of that and more on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places and bet 365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Hello, everyone. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you live here on Thursday, August 28th. And Brendan, I love the folks in our YouTube chat and listening to us live on any podcast feeds. I got to be honest with you. I kind of figured watching this team play baseball for the last 3 days was enough. So I appreciate anyone indulging in more Chicago Cubs content with us tonight or on Friday morning.
No, we got the absolute most sick people right now watching us. We had who replied to this? Ready for therapy. You're tuning into us for therapy? What is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you people? A brutal week. I mean, I don't know if what we're going to say is therapeutic, but at least it will be commiserating misery. So
well, and look, Brendan, it continues this sort of weird I don't know, conversation tone just around this team.
Yeah.
Because we continue to talk about a team that has a top 5 record in baseball.
It's so weird.
But at times, just makes us want to pull our hair out. And unfortunately, the Brewers lose a series here to the Diamondbacks. You really could have picked up some games after, they also had their own troubles with San Francisco this past weekend. And you get swept by the Giants. Now, I will say, I think it certainly isn't going to make anybody feel better, but I feel like these trips to San Francisco are usually tough. They're, I think not.
Was it tough in 2016?
Not in October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just wondering. Yeah.
No, they went on to win the World Series.
World Series, okay.
Affect anything.
Yeah, okay.
So, tough team on the road. I know their record isn't great and they haven't performed the way maybe their expectations were. But, this isn't some awful team. If they had gotten, if they get swept in Colorado, different conversation, right? Unfortunate, however, to, watch Justin Verlander pick up. I think they said it was his first win at home for the Giants.
Yeah.
Rafi Devers all of a sudden, right? Like unlocking what has been missing. That stuff gets frustrating. But all in all, just a very frustrating series. And you can kind of, Troy M in our chat, 1-5 against the Giants this year. That was obviously a rough series at Wrigley Field earlier this year. So a team that just gave the Cubs trouble for whatever reason. This was a frustrating one, Brendan, because you just sort of felt like obviously the one game gets out of hand, but you felt like, a couple of these games were definitely winnable, and some key moments that really shift a lot of these games. And ultimately you're looking at 3 straight losses following a really nice series over the weekend, picking up a sweep.
Yeah. Well, that was the letdown. Is you're coming off the sweep in Los Angeles and Anaheim thinking, okay, well, the tides are turning. Kyle Tucker looks to be the guy we saw for multiple months. Pete Crow-Armstrong's hitting 9th inning home runs. The vibe is back. You're scoring double-digit runs, and you're still getting good pitching. You're thinking, okay, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for the past 6 to 7 weeks. And then you enter San Francisco. And the first game, you have Matthew Boyd pitch pretty well, fatigue out, get hit a little bit in that last inning, give up that home run. And then the wheels fell off from basically there on out. And then you mix in some just weird luck, like hard hit diving catches that San Fran's making. You got Willie Adames making Derek Jeter throws. You got guys getting hit in heads on cutoffs. It's like it was a weird series mixed with bad luck, untimely hitting, poor hitting performances from some guys. Seiya Suzuki continues to look weird. And you have this just like weirdness going on with this extreme positive trends for some guys, but still a lot of just annoying trends that we've continued to see for so many weeks now.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about all of it. We'll talk about the offense. We'll talk about some of the starts we saw in this series. I think we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on one Seiya Suzuki. Obviously one of the guys who has struggled results wise, and the Cubs need to turn around. So we'll dive into that. I would imagine part of that we'll talk about the lineup stuff, etc. I know that that's like a big thing, that Cubs Twitter is talking about. Although I got to tell you, Brendan, like Cubs Twitter, I don't know. Like on Thursday here, Brendan, like Owen Casey started, and Craig Counsell got ejected. I was kind of led to believe that those things guaranteed a victory, and
I don't know. I mean, like I thought, since Craig Counsell gave away that last game in Milwaukee, we should be like 4.5 back. If Craig Counsell didn't start Tucker again in the last game in Milwaukee, we would be in such better shape right now.
So I don't know. It's a little confusing. Yeah, but this was just one of those series, man. I mean, it felt like there were so many opportunities where you were watching. I mean, even today, with Nico early in the game, a very surprising
play
candidate for that. It really felt like basically half of this series was, this is a great situation. As long as they don't hit into a double play, this is going to be a great inning. Bang.
Double play.
How it goes sometimes. I don't know. But, look, the Cubs schedule does lighten up a bit here. They obviously head to Colorado. We talked about that. Then Atlanta, Washington, Atlanta again, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Cincy. So some beatable teams in there. And they do still hold a very significant lead on a wild card spot. And so the conversation continues, like frustrating series.
Yeah.
A frustrating team at times, but do want to continue to keep that perspective. Like this is one of the better teams in baseball, whether it feels like that on a daily basis. And each week we do this, it's not an exercise in trying to shrug off them playing poorly or shrug off potentially genuine concerns that you may have for certain parts of this team going forward and once they are in the playoffs. But I do continue to find it quite important to maintain that context. Like most of baseball is worse than them, and they will make the playoffs unless they just lose every game for the rest of the season. And I do feel confident that's not going to happen. I do see it in our YouTube chat. Does it make everyone feel better to watch Kyle Schwarber hit 4 home runs in a game tonight?
Maybe future Cub, future Cub, former Cub, future Cub. You never know. But taking a step back, just to amplify your point, they're still nearly 20 games above 500, and they're not playing their best. I do think Twitter, social media, our podcasts, the chat we have, we're an echo chamber of the worst nightmare scenarios. And so although at times it feels really bad, in reality, it's not as bad as we're all kind of amplifying each other. If you were to put this team back in 2008, 2007, oh my God, we'd be ecstatic. We're looking at 92, 93 wins. We're looking at, like, unless a crazy disaster happens, likely playing a playoff series, I would have been ecstatic. So I do think it deserves proper context that the first few months was so encouraging, and we're thinking crazy thoughts. I'm thinking, oh my God, Pete Crow-Armstrong's going to hit 50 home runs. He's going to win the MVP. He's going to be a 10-win player. I'm thinking Seiya Suzuki's going to do the same thing. Then you have Kyle Tucker. Then you got Boyd. And you got, before Steele's injury. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is 2016 all over again. And it's been the ride down back to maybe some normalcy that we're all trying to deal with over here.
Yeah, and I do think, again, the key is less so the sky is falling or, freaking out after a bad series or bad games or anything like that. And keeping that perspective of like, all right, this team is on track to make the playoffs. This is
Yeah.
overall a good season. But as we look forward here, what does this next month look like? And where do things need to change or evolve or revert back to how they were earlier in the year to have success in October? I think that's where the conversation steers. And I think too much of the conversation sort of neglects the like successful parts of this season. And again, it's not to shrug off. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you they played great baseball here in San Francisco or that I've been overjoyed watching this team for the last several weeks, right? But they're going to make the playoffs. Like, this is a solid season, probably, maybe could have been better in certain ways at certain times, but this is an exercise in how do they get this to the finish line and what do we need to see for this group that they have to be successful
Yeah.
in October. And I do echo our friend of the chat, EvoX73's note. He says on the positive side, didn't lose much ground on the Brewers. On the negative side, could be 4.5 out if you had picked up these last two games.
Yeah,
That
of
was kind of
course.
where my head was at. It was
Totally.
frustrating to finally see, especially at home, some cracks for the Brewers, blowing leads. McGill hitting the IL. They blew a lead the other night, fell behind early today, didn't come back, which like
Quintana
a few weeks
got
ago
shelled. Yeah.
felt it. I didn't know they were allowed to do that.
Neither did I.
And so for as dire as the division seemed, and maybe still seems, I guess, because you didn't pick up any ground, like it did feel like, man, if you could have just like gotten a couple of these hits with those bases loaded, like you would be back in a situation like, dude, if they were 4.5 out, you and I would be talking all kinds of stupid on this episode.
Probably, maybe even 5.5 out, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But one last bird's eye view before we get into the specifics. When you get into the playoffs, the way I think about this, and maybe you can interpret it as optimism or not, but in the playoffs, I want to go in with some confidence that our main guys have a good chance of performing. You get into a 3-game series, a 5-game series, a 7-game series, anything can happen. So what do I want to see happen over the next few weeks? Number one, Kyle Tucker. He's the anchor. Last week, Kyle Tucker's looked like the anchor. So I add a few points to my optimism. What else do I want to see? Well, I personally am worried about guys in the playoffs, the starting pitching staff being formidable. I need that confidence. Well, Shota Imanaga had a great start yet again against the Giants. Matthew Boyd continues to throw deep into games into the 6th inning and rack up strikeouts. Okay, well, Shota looks normal. Boyd continues to strike guys out and show depth. And Kyle Tucker continues to look like his former self, getting beyond that 6-week funk. Okay, check, check, check. At that point, then you allow for baseball to be stupid. You allow for someone like a Kike Hernandez to hit 5 home runs. You allow for someone like David Murphy to hit a home run every single game, right? And you look at the Cubs lineup, you can see several scenarios where one guy goes on a heater and it complements those anchors, the Kyle Tucker anchor and the starting pitching anchor. Should those 3 anchors go through the end of September, I'll feel pretty good. It's just being greedy that you want more anchors. I want the Seiya anchor. I want the Pete anchor. That's what I want to kind of, center myself on.
Yeah. And we'll continue to talk about that. One more thing, and I like the point from Genway here in our YouTube chat. The other thing, kind of as we go through this last month or so, it's also seeding for these wild card series. That's another important one. And where losing some of these series to teams that you feel like you should be beating, or even not just losing the series, but like avoiding a sweep, picking up one game at least if you're not playing your best baseball, it is important.
They've also done that
now,
the entire year. This is the first time that happened.
Yes, right. I know some people on some of those graphics, they were counting that sweep in Tokyo. That does not count. That's not a sweep. That's like the
spring training warm-up.
Yeah, the Shohei Ohtani showcase that they made the Cubs participate in. 2
And cheated
games,
in, by the
not a
way.
sweep. I don't count that. This was the first time they got swept. But
Okay.
it is a good point. Now, the caveat to that is like, do we want to play at Wrigley Field in the playoffs? I
Yeah.
don't know. They
We
can't
can't
hit
I
there,
can't
Brendan.
use West Coast trips anymore, Corey.
I know,
Dodger
but they can't
Stadium,
hit
San
there.
Francisco.
So I don't,
I
that part I'm not sure. And I wonder if like the pitchers and the hitters have differing. I'm sure everybody wants to play in front of their home fans. You don't want to go to a tough environment if it's San Diego or LA or, you know, whoever ends up in those wild card spots, the Mets, whatever. But it might be funny in the Cubs clubhouse. Like I imagine Shota, a guy who gives up a decent number of fly balls, is probably like, yeah. I want to pitch at Wrigley Field with the wind blowing in 80 miles an hour.
And then
And
Tucker's
like
like,
Kyle
"No."
Tucker and Michael Busch are like, hey man, like we can't hit there. So I don't know. But I do think that is another important part of this. Like the Cubs, you know, very high percentage chance to lock in one of these wild card spots, but where they play, who they play, especially in a short series like that, and the way this wild card series works, it is important. So that is another thing to keep an eye on, independent of what's going on with the division and, you know, whether the Cubs are working themselves back into that. So let's hit our first ad break here. We're going to come back and then we will do a dive. We'll talk about the offense and then we'll dive into what has been going on with one Seiya Suzuki.
Bet365, whatever the moment is never ordinary at Bet365. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. If you're a football fan, check this out with Bet365's early payout offer. If your team goes up by 17 points, your straight bets and parlays instantly are paid out as winners. If you love stacking parlays with Bet365's 100% parlay boost, you can double your winnings across a wide range of sports. And hey, Cub fans, there's something for you too. With the MLB early payout offer, if your team goes up by 5 runs, your bet cashes instantly. Playoff season is here, and new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Bonus bets can also be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, in-app only. All right, let's be real for a second. The world is lacking some punch lately. The Cubs, for example, they used to be an offensive scoring machine, punching everyone out. And don't get me started on Soda. Soda used to have some kick and punch too. Now it's all this soft, easy fizz. But here's the thing. RC Cola is not a soft drink. It's a damn good cola. It's the original cola that does not fold under pressure. RC is an OG cola in a world of spineless soft drinks. No trends, no gimmicks, no glow up. RC has not changed its stripes since 1905 because it didn't need to. It's the same bold, crisp flavor it's always been. RC Cola takes a punch like in the thirst. Every time I see RC Cola, I instantly think of Chicago and hot dogs, by the way. So yeah, love seeing RC Cola.
I was going to say, if you get to a friend's house and they have a bottle of RC Cola and a pizza that came in a bag with like a map of Italy on it,
yeah,
you know you're eating good. You're having a good
yeah.
night.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Brendan, back with you. And I do see some chatter about it. I would have to, double check this number, but it sounds right. Cubs fan in the chat says 3.4 runs per game in the last 20. I looked really quickly on Baseball Reference. Cubs have played, I believe, 24 games in the month of August. 15 of those games, 3 runs or less. Not good. And we've talked about this before, and I think this will be a good segue into the Seiya discussion. Kyle Tucker looking a lot more like himself, driving the ball, hitting homers, of course, in that Anaheim series. Some doubles in this series, just looks more like himself. But the rest of the offense on the whole, I joked with you the other day that unfortunately, like, Tucker came back, got back to himself, but he was forced to occupy the role of I'm the only one in the offense that can really do anything,
Yeah.
right? Role, which we've seen some guys play. It was Matt Shaw for a little while. Like, wow, this guy's doing great. Unfortunately, he is the only person that is driving in runs. And I do see Evil Wax say it in the chat, and this is something that we've talked about. It puts so much pressure on this pitching staff to be perfect. And you saw it even again today in the game, with Shota, where, gives up the early home run and you feel a little nervous, like watching it, like, shoot, like, are they going to be able to cover this? Are they going to be able to come back from this, put up the crooked numbers, etc.? And I think one of the things we talked about that was really frustrating through the previous stretch, really like prior to that Angels series, I guess, was that you felt like they were wasting a lot of these starts from these guys. You were getting really good starts from guys like Colin Ray. You were getting really good starts from guys like Shota, and you weren't winning all of those games. And unfortunately, like sometimes you're going to see a little bit of regression the other way. Like, I don't think either of those starts from like Boyd or Colin Ray were disasters. Colin Ray like had some bad luck. The defense didn't help, and then it unravels from there. But that's the thing. Like, you don't capitalize on the really good starts. Like, you can't expect these guys to be perfect every night. And that extends not just from the starting rotation, but of course to the bullpen. We've talked about, I've said this line, I think, a lot. Like, if you're asking the bullpen and your staff too, to cover so many innings and win a bunch of 3-2 or 4-3 games, you're going to end up mad at your pitching staff, and it's not going to be their fault. Like, that's just baseball. Like, if you're going to only put up 2 or 3 runs a night, pitching staff can do their best. And this Cubs staff has been excellent. One of, if not the best in baseball since the deadline, but no staff is going to be able to make that look good.
No. Looking at the offense, supplementing that staff, my focus shifts to Pete Crow-Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki. Now, the rest of the lineup, we can talk about Bush, we can talk about Dansby Swanson and so on. The rest of the lineup is producing essentially what you expect, if not better. A really interesting point for me is that if you look at just the batted ball quality, so how far the ball is being hit, how hard it's being hit, locations in which the ball is ending up, typically in years past, that's resulted in more base hits. Now, if you look at expected weight on base average, for instance, Dansby Swanson's expected WOBA is nearly 50 points higher than his actual. Justin Turner, a lot of ire about Justin Turner playing. Same thing, 40 points higher than his actual. Ian Happ is actually having his best expected number of his career this season with a 40-point difference of a 355 expected weighted on base average. Seiya Suzuki's the same thing, even though he's going through this weird funk, which we will talk about, a 30-point difference. The entire team has a positive expected difference than their actual numbers besides Pete Crow-Armstrong. So it is a mixture of misfortune, but also if you continue to have that batted ball quality, right, which again, to emphasize within the last couple of weeks, we have not really seen that. But if you continue to show signs that that's happening, well, those signs carry over into weirdness in the playoffs. So for example, Dansby Swanson hit a home run in the last game against the Giants. He's on pace maybe to go over 25 home runs. That would be his career best. He can go on a heater in the playoffs. Ian Happ has been struggling, but continuing to show signs of positive improvements over his first early season struggles. And we can go on and on and on. But where I don't have that confidence right now is looking at these elongated funks with someone like Seiya Suzuki. And I don't have the confidence in terms of projecting an actual number with Pete Crow-Armstrong because he does not have that track record, right? The other guys have that track record. So I do think when we talk about this offense, we can dial in on, okay, what are we seeing from Seiya and what are we seeing from Pete and how influential those two guys are in a playoff run in October?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and we see this, in this series, like one of the things that does concern me as this team were to head into the playoffs was how they will fare dominant rotation, and multiple lefty starters. And we just see this. And I know folks get frustrated when they see the lineup. And, we will talk about Seiya, I promise. But, looking at some of the numbers against lefties, like there was a lot of consternation at Carson Kelly, Justin Turner being in the middle of the order against a lefty. Now, I'll tell you straight up, as someone who liked the signing and who has been pointing out for a while now that Turner has been one of the better hitters against lefties, kind of doing what they wanted him to do in that role. I am not going to lie to you guys and sit here and say that in August in a pennant race, I was looking forward to him hitting cleanup. Like that's not how I wanted this to go. But I think that that's a roster thing and not so much a Craig Counsell lineup thing, which I think a lot of the conversation.
Well, folks are going to
directs
push
it to.
back on you because they look
Sure.
at Matt Shaw and they think, oh, Matt Shaw's turning the corner. Why
Yeah.
is he batting 8th and 9th?
Yeah. I still have the same answer to that, and I'm not going to have a problem with it. I think that he is succeeding. He has gone through a ton of adjustments, and if they feel more comfortable kind of leaving him alone rather than having the attitude be, hey, man, you're the only one that's hitting right now. You got to go carry this burden and hit in the middle of the order and risk setting him back. And I'm not saying that that would happen, and I don't mean to imply that he couldn't handle that. But if they feel like this is the best thing for him, they finally have it working. I don't know that I would disagree with them that they want to prioritize that and not make these other guys not hitting and doing their job Matt Shaw's problem. Like, especially those double plays, like from Kelly or Turner on these various nights, like they got to elevate the ball. Like they need to be better situationally. And if they wanted to move Shaw up, fine. I'm just saying I'm comfortable deferring to them. It's finally working. Like I get that if their feeling was this is working. He's a 23-year-old. He's a big prospect for us. We're hoping he's our third baseman for the next 6+ years. I don't want to make the middle of the order slump his problem when you do have guys with track records. And I just want to read, like, these are some of the numbers, I believe, in the second half against lefties. So against lefties, Dansby Swanson is number 1 in WRC plus with a 223 WRC plus. Matt Shaw is next, 211. Nico Horner after that, 148. Justin Turner is the following at 114. Behind him, Kyle Tucker, 110. And then Carson Kelly here in the second half at 93. It gets bad from there. Seiya next, PCA next, Ian Happ next, and Michael Busch bringing up the rear with WRC plus that I can do on one hand, Brendan. 3 against lefties. So I do think like that's, that's part of it. Those are the guys that you'd want getting the most at bats. And, look, I'm just going to laugh if the suggestion here is like, well, they should move Dansby up or whatever. I mean, we spent the first 3 months of the season, people were going to run into traffic when they saw Dansby Swanson hitting in the top 5 of these lineups. So look, like I'm saying, I never wanted to be in a situation where Turner and Kelly were batting that high. And especially Kelly, like his stats are very much buoyed by a very strong start to the season. But this is sort of just how this roster is constructed. 2 of your better hitters from the beginning of the year and really overall on the season are very much neutralized by left-handed pitchers. PCA has been bad. Michael Busch has been unplayable against lefties. Like that's a pretty significant thing for the lineup to have to deal with. So look, I hear you, but right now the only guy that I would move up based on performance is Matt Shaw. And I understand why they might not want to do that.
Lineup construction is the most overrated discussion we'll ever have. We're talking about guys getting 3 to 4 plate appearances. In reality, the top 4 guys are going to get your most plate appearances. When we start talking about the 5th guy versus the 7th guy, miss me with that. I don't even know how to talk about that.
I hear you.
I understand all the Shaw discussion. I truly get it, right? But when you try to project the next 6 weeks, you get in this danger territory where if you start moving Shaw up, and maybe they end up doing this because they have a better confidence, but when you start moving guys based on 2-week samples, right?
Yeah.
That's not the environment you want guys hitting in. So it's also not the environment you want your manager making impulsive decisions, right? So I don't know. It's an overrated discussion, and in reality, like, the lineup needs to start hitting from top to bottom.
I totally agree with you. I just wanted to bring it up because I see it as a topic of conversation, and I think specifically pointing out the lack of simplicity, even if you wanted to be shuffling stuff with the left-handed performance, I just think is a worthwhile discussion given, how much the team is talking about it. But I agree with you. Like, ultimately, unless Craig was putting Reese McGuire in the leadoff spot, right? Like, I don't think that I really care what he's doing lineup wise. I think ultimately, as we've continued to discuss, and especially reading like some of these numbers, how frequently they're scoring 3 runs or less, et cetera, like, guys got to hit, guys got to do their job. Like, and I bring up those double plays as specific instances. Like, you want guys putting in the ball in play. Adames made a really nice play on one of those double plays. Doesn't help that Justin Turner is as slow as humanly possible. So it's not like it was the worst thing in the world, but those are just instances where you need guys to come through with a bases clearing hit every now and again. That's what this team has been missing. You need guys to be elevating the ball in those spots and just avoiding those kind of inning killing things. And this was a series where you just kind of had that happening repeatedly. Double plays. You had that, Shaw getting doubled up, like they're making leaping catches and doubling guys off at second. It's just one of those series, man. But I agree with you. Like, ultimately, the 1 through 9 should not matter unless it's something insane that Craig is doing. And I don't think he's doing anything insane. Ultimately, the guys need to hit. Guys need
People
to do
do
their
think
job.
it's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
they do. I understand it. But let's hit our ad break here. We'll continue the discussion, some discussion on Seiya Suzuki in particular.
Yeah.
So Toyota, at Toyota's national sales event, we've got a long lineup of vehicles for summer fun. There's the 4Runners. It's an off-road icon. The Tundra hauls it all with his twin turbo engine, and the Tacoma takes adventure straight to the top. If you want to ride with sizzling hot style and efficiency, the all-hybrid Camry is revving and ready to ride. So visit your local Chicagoland dealer today or visit toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places and become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information and how you can join the thousands of CHGO listeners in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level. Man, I love catching a ball game live. There's nothing like walking into the park, hearing the crowd, feeling that energy. But let's be honest, actually getting tickets can be brutal. You're stuck in queues, you're refreshing login screens, and then prices suddenly jump right when you're ready to check out. All you want to do is be there with everyone else, not just fighting the system. That's why I use Game Time. The Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's super easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, no hidden fees. What you see is what you pay. I just pulled it up for a Cubs game, and in seconds, I saw all these great seats at a price I felt pretty good about. I love the seat view feature as well, being able to see exactly what the field looks like from your section before you buy. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go, download the Game Time app today.
All right, folks. And just one more thing on becoming a CHGO diehard. It is almost Chicago Bears season, and CHGO has, bar none, the best Bears team in town. The CHGO Bears tailgate tier is live. This is a first of its kind offer for CHGO, and it's built for our most passionate Bears fans. Every tailgate tier diehard gets 2 Bears tailgate tickets every year, one for them and a Bring a Friend pass. They also get a free CHGO diehard shirt. All the usual diehard perks still apply: exclusive content, merch, event discounts, Discord access, and more. Pricing breakdown: new members $89.99 for year one. Current diehards can upgrade with a special pro-rated discount. And for anyone who signs up, all of our brand new Bears shirts are available to redeem for the free shirt, not just the one on the wonderful graphic that you just saw. Best Bears team in town. Should be a fun season coming up. And if you are a Chicago Bears fan, I encourage you to check all of that out. Tailgates are a lot of fun, and their Bears coverage is second to none in this city. All right, Brendan, back to the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, I see a lot of discussion in the chat. I do want to get to Seiya. I thinking in my head, again, very evil wax heavy episode tonight. But he's wondering if not having a consistent leadoff hitter would at least help this team. I don't know. Truthfully, like when he was going right, I always liked Ian Happ as the leadoff hitter for this team, especially against lefties, or excuse me, especially against righties. And I guess I can see it. But that's sort of the thing. Like Happ struggled. He was also hurt. And Craig was trying to figure out what the best thing to do was. I know Michael Busch hasn't been great overall since moving into that spot. I think it was a fine experiment, but I do think against lefties, I like seeing Nico in there. And if he was going right, I like Happ in there. I think he just has a good eye, and his on base tendencies, I think, are really well suited for the leadoff spot. But yeah, it's certainly fair to wonder aloud. And I do think, Brendan, I agree with you. You and I have talked about, lineup and the discussion and how much that really matters a lot over the years. And you and I are very aligned on that. I do think I understand why, fans of the team watching every day, they start to ask the question of, man, it does seem like we see a lot of different things happening all the time, and wonder maybe if some consistency in certain spots would help or be better.
But it's a delicate balance. Kyle Tucker is the perfect example. So what if you move Kyle Tucker back 7th or 8th after that brief spell against the Brewers? Well, those home runs aren't as impactful. Getting the pitcher out, working those pitch counts out, don't become as impactful. So you risk the overall sequencing not being aligned. You risk the craziness we're talking about. In my view, it would be crazy to bat your best hitter anywhere under than the top 5. You're just not doing yourself favors. So that's the risk you take. At the same time, I do believe there's an art to it where you're looking at someone like Carson Kelly or Matt Shaw, and you're trying to determine, okay, do you trust Matt Shaw's recent improvements enough versus Carson Kelly's bulk performance over the year, and weigh that without having Carson Kelly's track record to boost it? Which is weighed more heavily? I think that's a fine conversation, but I don't think it's as insane to proceed as is, because you don't have those answers either. If you bat Shaw 6 and Carson Kelly 8th, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can't have an obvious conviction either way, in my opinion, with these numbers.
Yeah, I hear you. Guys need to hit. So let's talk about one of the things that I do think really keys their turnaround or just getting this offense going. And I think one of them is Seiya Suzuki, and getting him going, and especially getting him slugging. So some numbers for Seiya. Last 30 games, 99 at bats, a 192 batting average, 344 on base, 253 slug. Last 15 games, 47 at bats, 191 average, 350 on base, 213 slug. Last 7 games, 24 at bats, 167 average, 323 on base, 167 slug. Last 30 games, Brendan, 1 home run. Look, when this team was running right, that is not what these numbers look like. And I certainly don't think that any of this is a coincidence. This is a guy that has 27 home runs on the season, one of them in his last 30 games. I mean, at certain points in this season, Brendan, we were wondering if Seiya was going to hit 40 home runs at the pace that he was on, and it has come to an absolute crawl. And I think that's another area that really gets tricky for Craig, because Seiya's been this guy for this team for a couple seasons now and was certainly one of the drivers in this offense. Kyle Tucker at the beginning of the year, and hopefully he's returning to that form, was that consistent superstar top level performance that you were getting every day. And we talked about it so much, how nice it was to have Seiya Suzuki putting up a high 8s OPS or a low 9s OPS and hitting so many homers the way that he was, and having that be a complementary performance to someone performing at an even greater level in Kyle Tucker. Now you have sort of the opposite, right? For that stretch, Kyle Tucker was mired in a slump himself, and Seiya Suzuki is stuck in this spot, even below that, and has not shown the signs to get out. So we know that throughout his career, he's been a streaky hitter. He's one of those guys. I think it was just a couple weeks ago, I had mentioned to you that sometimes he, not exactly, but reminds me of Soriano in a sense, only in the sense that there were those periods where it was like, man, the ball looks like a beach ball to him. You can put any pitcher out there, whatever, he's hitting 2 home runs tonight. It just feels like that. Then there's other times where it's like, does this guy need glasses? Are his eyes closed up there? Like, is he guessing at the pitches? Is he being told the wrong pitch? Because it just looks completely off from a visual standpoint. So we knew that. That being said, Seiya getting it going and getting back to that threat of, that top 3 in the order for this team to go along with Kyle Tucker and whoever is the leadoff hitter on that given day is a massively important thing to where this season goes, not just for the next month, but into the playoffs.
Seiya's an enigma. I'm trying to balance the times he looks really bad and lost versus the batted ball quality that he's shown recently, which is crazy to even say, but he has shown batted ball quality. But when he's not having those strong batted balls, it looks awful. I mean, he looks like he's just not seeing the pitch whatsoever. So when we look at, okay, is he chasing more? Is he just flailing away? Is he swinging less? What is actually going on?
Well, and before you dive into it, Brendan, let's go ahead and why don't we just take the temp on Seiya Suzuki? Our Taking the Temp segment is brought to you by your trusted local experts at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com, and we will take the temp on one Seiya Suzuki.
Seiya Suzuki's, I don't like using expected WOBA because I know people roll their eyes at it. Even I do as well. But it does
David Bodie, expected WOBA legend.
That's right. David Bodie, legend right there. But it does give you an idea of what's actually going on. You take pieces of information from every single area. In August, it's over 100 or 400. So when he's hitting the ball, the quality looks okay. It's that he's not doing it as often as you would like. And that's where I think we center on. So if you look at just his overall swing decisions, let's look at what he's doing. On the left, you see Seiya Suzuki's swing percentage at pitches outside the zone, or otherwise called chase rate, on an every 20 chance basis. And you can see at the start of July, it starts to go really down. That's a good thing, right? You're thinking, okay, he's chasing less. That should translate to more walks. Well, number one, it hasn't. And number two, it's not just him chasing less. In fact, his overall swing rate, even with pitches inside the strike zone, is going down even further. If you look to the right graph, at the start of August, his overall zone swing rate was around 60% in a 20 chance basis. Recently, in his last 20 chance basis, it's under 50%. That is a crazy number. Just to put that into context, during Pete Crow-Armstrong's heater in May, his zone or his chase rate was over 50%. Pete was chasing more than Seiya swinging at pitches inside the zone this month. Now, you align this with what Dustin Kelly's talking about when he was discussing Seiya Suzuki's recent funk. And Dustin Kelly described Seiya, just to paraphrase, as in between pitches, meaning he's not seeing pitches well, and you can see it. He's flinching at balls like down the middle. So he thinks breaking ball inside. He's not turning away from fastballs up and in. He's taking a slider down low. And then at times, 0-2, strikeout, 3-pitch at bat. That happens a lot more often recently than what we've seen. Now, that gets sometimes it's shadowing some of the quality batted balls we have seen, pulling the ball down the left field line, hitting a ball, 390 feet into the dead window Wrigley Field. That stuff is becoming clouded because of these poor plate appearances. But we've seen this from Seiya for the 4th straight year now. He goes through these weird stretches where it's not clicking for some reason.
This feels like a more prolonged one than at least in recent memory, but that's certainly anecdotal.
He has 27 home runs though, right? Like, yeah, this is it's a long stretch, but it might feel worse just because it started off so hot. I mean, it was really bad when David Ross benched him in San Francisco several years ago. I'm thinking to myself, this guy may not last, right? In a starting role. So it's a consistent thing for him. The reality is this is part of Seiya's profile. So what I've learned from this is that expecting better performance, 30, 35 home runs as being the probable outcome, I can't do that. Like, this is just another ding on him. And I hate even saying that because you see the talent. I mean, from a pure hitter athleticism point of view, other than Tucker, Seiya is the guy on the team, but he just can't put everything together. So going forward, even this year, he is susceptible to these stretches and is represented by his career numbers. He's not a 350, 360, 370, especially above 370 perennial guy. He's better than Ian Happ, but not by much. And they're paying him to be exactly that. And we had hoped, and we continue to hope, it finally clicks, but it just hasn't clicked for him in year 4 on a consistent level.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it is something to note. I mean, streakiness in hitters, a lot of guys have slumps, some guys, but there is a big difference in those guys that are able to, outside of smaller stretches of slumps, really maintain that consistency throughout the year. That's legitimately what separates, those star players from that tier that's, kind of just below them. And I would maintain that had it not been for the injury and whatever weird thing happened, Kyle Tucker would have been doing that. And Seiya just isn't in that group. I think that's, something we just kind of have to accept.
Actually, Tucker was doing that. Like he had a like, just to highlight that for a second, because someone brought up in the chat too, Tucker was working walks because Tucker can work in at bat and foul pitches off. Right? Seiya's not doing that.
Yeah.
And this is really important to highlight. At Tucker's worst stretch in July, he had an OBP over 350. He was one of the most significant contributors on a slumping Cubs team at his worst.
Yeah.
1 5-second point. Seiya's walk rates, the expected walk rate for someone who chases that little should be about 15% rate. He only walks at a 10% rate. The expected strikeout rate for someone who makes that much contact should be better than league average. Think about this. He makes better than league average contact, but he strikes out significantly more than your average hitter. None of this aligns. So he is not like that stable anchor where he can survive these slumps.
And I think that's just, something you have to just acknowledge, like, as you're going forward, building the roster and figuring out the lineup. Like, there is a difference in those players.
And it kind of sucks. I don't know. Like, I truly thought for a while there that Seiya got it together. Like
Me too.
you're seeing 25 home runs. I'm thinking crazy things. Like
Yeah.
finally, the pure athleticism we're seeing is translating to this output. And man, it just took a step back again.
Yeah. So we'll see if he gets out of it. I would expect him to. I mean, usually he finds his way out of these funks, but again, this is just sort of something that maybe not to this degree, but we've come to just somewhat expect a little bit in terms of the streakiness. But it is one of those things where you look, especially just some of these, the lack of slug, those overall numbers in the last month or so, just being so far down. It's obviously going to hurt the lineup. And I think, some people, as we talked about, maybe get frustrated. They want to see more shuffling, but it was the same when we his slump. Like if these guys don't get right and drive the lineup, and now it's true for Seiya, like I'm not saying none of this matters, but like they need Seiya to be a slugging middle top of the order threat. Like the
Has this
plan.
changed? Has this changed your outlook at all, just from the Cubs offense to say his future? This
No,
recent
but
funk?
I think it does highlight a point you made earlier, that I think the concern heading into the playoffs, and I mean, I suppose this is true for a lot of teams, but I think especially this group, it does feel like one where it's like, man, we have to like really cross our fingers. We get when they go into October, that we get the good version of this, because they have shown. It does make me a little nervous, in their ability to grind out wins and runs when they're not going right. And it's a very difficult thing for any offense to do. But I think this recent stretch and so many low scoring outputs, it does put up sort of a warning of like, man, if they're not going right, are they going to be able to manufacture runs, scratch across runs, and be able to beat good pitching if they are not at their best, at their peak,
Yeah, this does change things for me. Like, how can it not? The first 3 months, you're seeing guys perform at 80th percentile outcomes. And the first 3 months being the beginning of the season, thinks changes were made. I'm looking at Seiya's, again, 35, 40 home run pace. As I said earlier, that it was representing him figuring it out. And obviously, that was not the case. I'm looking at Pete Crow-Armstrong's 40-40 pace. I'm thinking, oh, wow, he's significantly turned a corner, and he still has, but it's just not to that degree that we all thought, right? So I do think it changes things. I mean, again, how can it not? It leads me back to the entry point of the season, where I expected an upper 80s win team, and they're on pace for a low 90s win teams. They're exceeding my opening expectations.
Sure.
And then my May, June expectations got risen even higher. And that was not real. It wasn't real. But at the same time, the entry point's also not real either. They're better than the entry point, because Pete's changes are real. It's just maybe not that 40-40 type guy yet, unless he goes on a heater. Seiya Suzuki still is valuable, a very valuable bat, but maybe not that 130 RBI, 45, 50 home run guy.
Yeah.
That's where I'm kind of recalibrating myself to get down from that early season high, and still remind myself that, yes, this team is good. In fact, not just good, but one of the better teams in the league. But their profile really never was like juggernaut 100 win team. It was always kind of likely going to fall back just a little bit. And the fallback actually might be better than what my initial expectation was.
I think that's fair. Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I'd like to see them get back to, especially, I mean, early in the year, it felt like they were scoring 10 runs every other night.
Right.
But it just feels like a long while since we've felt the sort of relentlessness of this lineup, which was really a hallmark of the group for the first few months. Seeing a lot of pitches, chasing pitchers early, taking walks, station to station, excellent base running, and that all combining with those guys slugging was leading to those, heavy crooked numbers on so many frequent nights. And it's just felt like a lot lately where it's somewhat of the opposite, where we're, of course, as fans, but watching like, here's a guy with bad numbers making us look bad. And there's plate appearances where guys are staring at pitches, right down the middle, and they can't hit situationally. And of course, it's not every night, and these things ebb and flow. But it did feel like in the beginning of the year, like they were such a well-oiled, like 1 through 9, just tough team to pitch against, and it just has not felt like that in a good bit.
Yeah, it's built into their profile. That's why they're not those top echelon guys in projections, because they, number one, either don't have a track record or they've shown valleys like this. That's why, for instance, Seiya Suzuki is not projected to be better than he is.
So, all right, 5 minutes left. I feel like we set the expectation. So I don't think that this should come across as a negative conversation. Because again, setting the expectation, like this team's going to make the playoffs. They have a month to kind of sort through some of these things and be playing good baseball by the time they get into October. And October, as you always mention, like very stupid, even stupider than the 162 game season. Like there is a non-zero chance the Cubs move through October and Willie Castro is the MVP of the playoffs, right? Like,
or Pete Crow-Armstrong hits 20 home runs.
Yeah, like these things happen. But 5 minutes left. Give me something positive that you saw in this San Francisco series that you're holding on to, and you're allowed to say Nico Hoerner pimping a home run.
I mean, I was going to say Nico Hoerner, but he's just a consistent guy regardless. Positivity. Dansby Swanson going yard in that last game, had a double also down the left field line. Matt Shaw continues to make consistent improvements, it looks like, playing quality defense as well. I said it earlier in the show, and I'll end it here, bookmarking it. Matthew Boyd, Shota Imanaga, Kyle Tucker. The anchors, the best hitters, or the best players on this team. If they're clicking, then the rest of the team has a scenario available that if they go on a heater, like I said, then October could be fun. And so I'm holding on to that type of anchor. Just those top guys who need to be performing are performing lately.
Yeah. And I think looking ahead to the series with Colorado before we sign off here, we will see. I think it's sort of, I might be up for debate. I think it's still Pete for me, but perhaps the biggest positive of the season is one Cade Horton, who will get the ball on Friday night, 7:40 on Friday night, 7:10 on Saturday night. Javi Assad, 2:10 on Sunday. TBD for the Cubs, of course, following the Jameson Taillon injury news. We'll see what the Cubs decide to do there. But pretty simple, Brennan. I mean, you're playing a 38-96 Colorado team.
It would be nice.
It would be nice to sweep this team. And, more than anything, I know it's, obviously usually a tough environment to pitch in, but Assad has looked really good. Since coming back. Cade Horton is now the favorite for Rookie of the Year. He looks absolutely unbelievable. Score some runs for your pitchers. Give your pitchers a little space. Let them give up a stupid Coors Field home run and not feel like the game is lost because they gave up 2 or 3 runs. Score some runs for your pitchers. I'm begging, literally begging. Like, put up some 6 spots, some 8 spots. Like, give me some crooked numbers.
Just make me feel good. I woke up after that sweep against the Angels. Everything was just brighter in my life. Everything was healthier. I felt great. I want that moment again. I want that hope. I want that ease of going throughout my day, knowing the Cubs are looking good.
Yes. So all told, as we wrap up here, the Cubs are 76-58, 6.5 behind the Brewers. They currently sit as the top seed in the NL wildcard. They have a 3.5 game cushion on the Mets, who hold the last spot. And then the Reds are 4.5 out. So a pretty safe lead for the Cubs. I will knock on wood. I'm not stupid. I've been here before, but
we all have.
They're going to make the playoffs. So good team, good season, frustrating at times, especially recently, but a good bit of baseball left, and try to get yourself in a good position for October. Maybe we continue to see a little more cracks in the Brewers start to show. You chip away there. I don't know. But either way, get yourself ready. You're going to be playing October baseball. Try to be in a good spot. When you get there, it starts with Cade Horton in Colorado. And please, whoever is in the lineup, however Craig draws it up, please just score him some runs. Get him some run support. Give him a cushion and go win some games against a horrific baseball team.
They should bat Dansby Swanson cleanup.
Lead off. All right. Brendan and I will be back with you next week. We appreciate the support. Don't forget to tune in to Luke and the boys throughout the rest of the week. We appreciate you. Enjoy the holiday weekend if you have it off. We'll be back with you next week. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.